General, we appreciate you being here. But I want to pick your brain. I'm going to go around and have people come. I'm pretty sure I know Caitlin wants to ask you some questions. I know Rob does. But so you worked under Donald Trump, and what was your main? What was the job title, and what did your job entail while you were working?
I performed the duties of Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, which is the number 3 position in the Pentagon. It's like Chief Operating Officer of the Pentagon.
Got you.
And in charge of all the war plans, in charge
wow.
of advising the president on any incident that happens. I had several assistant secretaries of defense that reported to me. They were all regionally cataloged, so that I had one for Asia, one for China, one for Europe, one for the Balkans, one for Africa, etc. And anytime anything happened, Navalny poisoning happened, and so my Russia person had to present to me some options because we had to prepare a response for the president, because the president had to address a significant incident like that. What could he say? What could he not say? What would be the best things to say? What could he release? What could he not release because of the type of poison that was used? It gets very technical, and so you could go in and you brief the president with the Secretary of Defense, or sometimes without, and lay out the different options and say, recommend, this go out in a press release as a statement from you, etc. And or war plans, or things happen in Syria, Africa, the hostage rescue. Probably I've been on the presence of Donald Trump many times. He has never been like the psychomaniac that he's portrayed.
Grabbing the steering wheel of a Secret Service.
Right. He's
never
always been a gentleman, always been a good listener, very intelligent,
funny.
Funny,
He's so
super funny.
Very funny.
Yeah,
great DJ too, by the way.
Yeah, and I want to say it was in October, late October. We did a hostage rescue that was very, very risky in Niger, and it involved so many different moving parts. We were up all night, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and in the Situation Room. He didn't have to do that, but he rescued an American. It was like a week before the election. If something had gone south on that, God forbid we'd lost a soldier, wrecked an airplane. There were things that everything could go wrong there, but it all went perfectly smooth. That takes a certain amount of intestinal fortitude. And nobody knew who this hostage was. He wasn't doing it for the publicity. He did it because it was the right thing to do. And so it was a real privilege to be able to work in that position as a senior DOD representative, interacting with the president, talking to all of our troops deployed all around the world. I went to about 6 different countries in my time there. When I was in Riyadh on January 6th, actually, and right before we changed out, and I was working a major defense deal with Khalid bin Salman, who was the deputy minister then. Now he's the minister, and the notion, the reporting that we did not have good relationships with our allies and partners was just flat untrue. And when you look at what happened in Afghanistan, the Biden administration fundamentally broke NATO. Nobody talks about how 29 other NATO nations were left holding the bag there. We just left. And I had been talking all the time to our NATO partners when I was the Undersecretary. We came in together, we modified troop levels together in Afghanistan, and we're going to leave together. And we left 2,500 at Bagram Air Base. We had a plan for that. The people coming in, they wanted nothing to do with us or planning in anything. In fact, they wanted to do the opposite. And it was really disturbing because I've been a public servant, serving this country at the national level, state level, city level, county level. I've been a superintendent. I've been a chief operating officer. I've been a secretary of transportation, and public service has been my lifeblood. And to see these people come in, craven, power-hungry politicians coming in, or political appointees coming in, they wanted nothing to do with the goodness of what we had done. What they wanted was, with hubris and arrogance, to come in and just take over.
So, General, how much? I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but how much of all the chaos that's happening right now, globally, Israel, Hamas, Russia, Ukraine, Houthis. I mean, I could keep going. How much of it is because of the fact that Donald Trump is not in? Because I feel personally,
it's 100%.
yeah, please unpack that.
The Biden administration, the philosophy that they have, to the extent that they have one, is one of do everything the opposite of what Trump did. We were doing the Abraham Accords. They shut all that down. They didn't want peace in the Middle East. They didn't want economic ties. Economic ties was the genius behind the Abraham Accords. Get the Saudis and the Emiratis and the Israelis building businesses together to build those bridges. They came in. They purged people off of all these presidentially appointed boards. I was appointed by the president to the Defense Policy Board, very prestigious board. Kissinger's was still on it when I was there. The Madeleine Albright was on that. And it was always tradition that the outgoing undersecretary was on this list. Secretary Austin just purged all those. I know Lloyd Austin. I was his deputy commanding general when he was commanding general, 10th Mountain Division.
Oh, wow.
I was an airborne battalion commander for him when he was an airborne brigade commander at 82nd Airborne.
Oh, wow.
So what did I ever do to him? But he took everybody off these lists. And you talk about, sort of fascism and totalitarianism. That's really what we've got going on here. And this group think that they have the best ideas. They don't. They are so flawed in their thinking that they embarrassed us in Afghanistan and fractured an entire generation of veterans that served there. Yep. I had soldiers calling me crying, say, "Sir, what did my time count? Was it worth it?" And then that led directly to Putin seeing these guys are Keystone cops, and he moves to the border of Ukraine. He attacks Ukraine. There was no diplomacy. So think about what I said about fracturing NATO when we left. What better way to kind of paper over that than to have a threat against NATO?
Of course.
Right? All right. So now they do no negotiation. They know that NATO's all mad at them, and I know that NATO was mad at the United States. And then you have the president getting up there saying, "Oh, we got the most cohesive NATO we've ever had," which is utter BS. So that's two intelligence misses, really. You think about Afghanistan and the Taliban, and then the intelligence miss. What was Blinken's offer to Zelensky the night before the invasion? He offered him a ride out. Remember this. I don't know if it's never talked about. It's your famous journalist. Blinken offered Zelensky a ride out of Kyiv on the eve of the invasion.
Okay.
Think about that. I'll give you the headline a different way. Biden offered to Putin to decapitate the Ukrainian government on the eve of the invasion. That would be the headline if it were Trump.
Wow.
But Zelensky famously said, "I don't need a ride, I need ammo."
Oh, wow.
Right? So think about how, and remember, the Biden administration denied the Polish offer of MiG jets very early on in the war. Think about if Trump did that.
Oh, forget it.
Trump helps Putin by denying,
Yeah.
refusing arms to Ukraine. So this whole thing is kind of turned, but it was a big intelligence miss. The intelligence miss on October 7th last year with Hamas. So that's three major intelligence misses. And then we don't know what intelligence miss we have had on the border because it hasn't manifested yet.
Not yet, but it's definitely coming. We're gonna.
Right.
What Jeff said to say again?
So that's. I'll shut up now.
No, please jump because all those that you're saying, especially the Hamas, the one that bothers me the most, besides, our border and that one terrorist, that known terrorist, Rob, that was like, "Oh, soon you're going to know my name." Mind you, no arrest, no nothing. He's still in our country. Yeah. The Hamas, just briefly, General, the Hamas-Israel thing, Egypt knew a year in advance. They let them know how in God's name can an attack like that happen with one of the most secure places in the world. They asked John Kirby, I think it was 2 weeks after, and he said, "Now's not the time." Famously, "Now's not the time." I tweeted at him. I said, "Is now the time? It's been almost 40,000 dead. When is the time?" How could something of that magnitude go miss? Another failure of intelligence, and for those terrorists, for Hamas, to run wild for 6 to 12 hours.
That whole intelligence apparatus is focused on the American people to a large extent. The NSA, the FBI, the CIA, they're being weaponized against the American people. And because of this philosophy that this administration has, it misaligns their purpose. Their purpose is to provide intelligence to the decision makers in the federal government to be able to provide safety and security to the United States, home and abroad, people and property. That is it. And they are hamstrung in their ability to do so because of this misalignment in philosophy, where they are given the mission to help them, the people in power politically, which is so far out of line. It's against the Constitution. It's not coincident with what they're supposed to be doing. And so that's why we have these intelligence failures, because they're looking at the wrong stuff. And they have bad guidance. And so, they're 0 for 3 right now. Afghanistan, Ukraine, Israel.
Yeah, what's next?
So what's next?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, question off this. I'm curious your thoughts as to a perspective like Vivek Ramaswamy's. It's been a little bit popular. He wants to disband all of these 3-letter institutions, right? The CIA, the FBI. Is just disbanding like that. Do you see that as dangerous? I mean, we need these institutions in place, but we need them not to be weaponized against the American people. So is his view to you dangerous?
I wouldn't say it's dangerous. What I would say is that what I hear him saying when he articulates these, look, we'll just eliminate 1 in 3 people, 2 in 3 people, whatever, is a bureaucratic change agent that will result in change, because a lot of people come in, they make adjustments on the margins, and the rot in these institutions never gets impacted.
Right.
So he's trying to impact the rot, and sometime from a negotiating strategy, you say, I want this much, when you're really willing to accept half of that or whatever. So when he says, let's fire 2 of 3, that might be a good strategy. Now, I was a captain in the Pentagon for a year, and it was kind of, I was wandering around there, doing some crazy job. But I would come home and think, you could get rid of at least 1 in 3 people in this building and have no impact. And honestly,
It's funny, but it's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, these bureaucracies just built. It's the old thing. You haven't spent 80% of your budget by July. You better flurry and start spending all this money, instead of taking an introspective look. Like, do I really need all this? Do I really need this directorate? Do I really need this piece of bureaucracy here? Like the whole DEI thing, you could flush that down the toilet and save billions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
Within the federal government,
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Connor?
So, General, I wanted to bring it back to the thing you mentioned earlier. You said that a lot of the problems we've been having internationally, 100% because Trump is not in the White House. Now we have Biden. As Vinny mentioned, we have Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and Hamas being a proxy for Iran. Iran's now threatening open action against Israel. China's circling Taiwan, and Xi apparently told Biden a while back, like, it's gonna happen. We're gonna go into Taiwan. So these are all problems that have cropped up under Biden, like you said. My question, I guess, is putting Trump back in the White House enough to stop this now, or does there need to be another solution? Like, is it just his presence in the White House that can fix it? Do there need to be big policy changes he's bringing with him, or what's your take on that?
Well, I think part of it is having the president, but a lot of it is also the people he hires, right? And having worked in these kinds of political appointee positions before, you need to hire people, and he knows this, that are consistent with your vision. And that needs to be the litmus test. Do you have the vision of America first? Do you have the vision of serving the American people first, and not some special interest groups or some, Islamic radical, progressive left-wing party in the United States? All people matter in the country, and as a president, your first job is the safety and security of American citizens. So him getting elected is a big first step, because it sends a signal. Think about it. Putin invaded Crimea under Obama, right? Took Crimea, took that base, made it a major Navy base in the Black Sea. There was no gnashing of teeth. Remember, he said he had more flexibility after the election, right? And then a year later, Putin invades Crimea, right?
That video.
So then Trump comes in, nothing happens.
Weird.
Right? Because he was unpredictable, and he rebuilt the military, he invested, he increased the military budget. And then Biden comes in. What happens? Putin continues into Ukraine. And so his presence is significant. And then if he brings the right team in, then I think what could potentially happen is you could reverse a lot of this. And one of the things that I noticed about President Trump was that I talk in terms of the levers of national power. You have diplomacy, information, military, economic, many others. He was a master at pulling those diplomatic, information, military, economic, coming in, when Syria broke a red line on chemical agents, he used the military economic or military lever. With China, it was almost all economic and information and diplomatic. He didn't want to lead with the chin of the American soldier. And that ability to understand the nuance of how to pull the levers of national power, in my mind, are he's the best I've seen at it, because too often we lead with the chin of the American soldier.
Okay, guys, that's it for us. General, thank you so much for being here.
My
For your
privilege.
blast. Hopefully you come back if you could fit us into your surfing schedule.